Tim Cook's playing the game on the field. So
but isn't it crazy that he has to? Isn't it crazy that he has to do that? That's insane. That's not a free capitalist country.
I think they call it narco-capitalism. Yeah. So I think we're between a socialist kleptocracy and a narco-capitalism.
Okay, that's bad. All right, guys, real fast here. It's Wednesday, so a reminder, I'm over on the next level. We got the crew back together. Sarah and JVL, everybody's off vacation. We're going to be punchy. That comes out for you guys on Wednesday evening, so make sure you're subscribed on your podcast app of choice. If you haven't, this podcast, well, buckle in. I have been promising, and I don't know that I've fully lived up to my promise, but I'm working on it. I want to make sure we are mixing it up in the show on Wednesdays, bring in experts some weeks, bring in people that disagree with me from my left on a topic, hashing that out. We've done that a few times on foreign policy stuff, bringing in people that disagree with me on the other side. And when Jason Calacanis of the All In podcast tweeted last week that he thought that Trump's first 6 months has been solid, I was like, well, that's a topic that we should hash out together. And so we do over the course of the next hour. Talk a little bit about AI and crypto at the end. And I think that you're in for an interesting show. So stick around. Up next, J-Cal, as they call him, from the All In podcast. And we'll see you over on the next level and back here tomorrow with one of our faves, Michael Weiss. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. Delighted to welcome back a journalist turned entrepreneur and angel investor turned podcaster. He co-hosts the podcast This Week in Startups as well as All In with Chamath Palihapitiya, boo, David Sachs, boo, and David Friedberg. It's Jason Calacanis. What's up, Jacob?
It's good to be here. Good to be here. I was just listening to our last conversation, which was October 15th before the election, and we were going at it a bit.
How did it hold up?
I think pretty good.
Re-listen. I didn't re-listen.
Yeah, it's worth a re-listen. I think, you had a lot of questions at that time of, how does Silicon Valley think about Trump? Because remember, that was when the preference cascade kind of had just started. They had done, Chamath and Sachs had done their fundraiser. Elon came out in support of Trump. And I guess many people, I hear back channels that even the administration or people in and around the administration think that was key to winning the election for Trump. Certainly didn't hurt.
All the Elon money, et cetera. And I'll be interested in your take on how everybody looks at it now. Like, what's that, 9 months later? But just really quick first, for people like don't know All In, don't know you, and who maybe weren't listening to this last October. Just give us a real quick Reader's Digest on what's your story.
Okay, so it's a podcast. It's 4 dudes. Started during COVID, and they're all venture capitalists / business builders for the past 30, 40 years, 30 years each. So 4 incredibly successful in business guys who would talk about business, technology, media. One of them, David Sachs, is really into politics. He's part of the PayPal mafia, and he went all in for Trump. He originally started with DeSantis, I guess was, as he said it, his preferred candidate. And then when DeSantis,
flamed out.
Yeah, flamed out, I guess would be a good way to say it. He went all in on Trump, so to speak. The podcast is regularly in the top 10 episodes.
And what about you? How do you fit in? What's your, give people a little Jason backstory?
Yeah, independent moderate. I hate politics. Don't care for politicians.
You talk about it a lot now, though.
I've been forced to, and so I've been giving it a lot of thought. And I bought some domain names, Mayor Jason, Governor Jason, and PresidentJason.com. Okay. So I have the 3 domain names. I'm the only American-born member of the quartet. So if they need a Manchurian candidate from the All In podcast, it's going to be by default me. And I've been offered a couple times to, they wanted me to run for mayor, not just them, but other folks. And they put up $2 million for me to run for mayor.
Mayor of what?
San Francisco. When I lived there.
Lurie, you got to feel good about Lurie. I mean, he's a Democrat.
Yeah, I met with him. I met with him before he was joining, and he was such a wet noodle. And I was like, you have to go right at London Breed and right at security. All people care about now is safety in that city. Everything else is great. Just go 100% at safety. And that's what he's done. And, it's still dangerous there, but I think he's trying. He's trying, at least.
You can give him credit. You can just give him credit just because he's a Democrat now, And
I voted, like we talked about last time. I think, having been a New Yorker my whole life and lived in LA and San Francisco, now I live in the great state of Texas in Austin on a horse ranch. Like you, I fled the Bay Area for better pastures, quite literally in my case. I vote for the best candidate. I think most people would call me like fiscally conservative, socially liberal, I guess, which is how you would describe the entire Trump administration. In order to win the second term, this is how I tweak everybody. I'm like, in order to win the second term, a Clinton Democrat, Trump, had to hire like 5 or 6 and get the support of another 2 or 3 incredibly high profile Democrats. Elon, Joe Rogan, Lutnick, Besant, Chamath.
Nutlick was a Democrat? I didn't know that.
Howard was a New York Democrat, All of them are. I mean, I grew up in New York in the 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, and they're all the same exact globalist, pro-economy, socially liberal, gay rights, legalized weed, kind of cohort. And Trump just took over the Republican Party and then gave them those Clinton kind of, I think, vibes, which is why they all joined it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're going to explore a little bit because I pick up different vibes, and that's fine. And so I want just for a little context for people, I'm going to do a big wind up here. In November, when we started this, I was like, I have a couple of pledges for this podcast in the next year. Not when we started this podcast, when we started the journey of having to deal with Trump 2.0. I was like, I want to.
We talked about that term.
I'm only going to talk about things I actually care about. I'm not going to do pretend outrage. I have to I'm going to care about what I care about. There'll be plenty to be actually outraged about. I'm going to focus on that. And I'm going to want to have people on to challenge me. I've done pretty good about that on finding people from the left. I would like to do even more, kind of more in the Zoran kind of lefty camp, because that's not socialist my natural home. Yeah, socialist or even whatever, a populist left, whatever you want to call it, like different, sometimes I guess Zoran's actually explicitly socialist, but or folks that just have more lefty populist views than me on foreign policy in particular. But I've struggled to live up to my pledge of trying to get on people to hash out like a more positive, if you will, view of what the administration is doing. Yeah. And the reason for that is that like I refuse to have anybody on that is going to be full of shit. Like I do not want to argue with somebody that will not say the same thing to me on the pod that they would say if we were just hanging out at the bar. Right. And I think that there are a lot of Trump supporters who there are genuine things they like about him, but like they're hesitant to say the bad things,
of course,
because of like the culture of intimidation around him or because whatever, they don't want to have access.
You'll be
exiled. Right. So that isn't you in my experience.
No,
you're willing to critique them. And so when I saw you sent this tweet a couple days ago and I DM'd you, it said first 6 months has been solid, still work to do. And I was like, that's actually a good premise to have a podcast on because Jason thinks the first 6 months has been solid, which implies that not perfect. He has complaints.
Yeah.
I think it's been like close to, like not the worst case scenario, but pretty disastrous. I think it's been pretty bad across almost all of the metrics. And so I figured let's just hash it out. So I'm sure we have some agreements on the negative, so we'll get to that later. What about the positive? Like what do you think has been solid? What have you liked?
So from a business perspective, and I spend my, every year I invest in 100 companies. I have a 21 person venture capital firm. Some of the companies, I was the 3rd or 4th investor in Uber, one of the first investors in Robinhood, Calm. And one of the really difficult things of the past 4 years was the anti-business, anti-capitalism sentiment of the Biden-Kamala sort of administration. And they hired somebody named Lina Khan, as you know, and she basically froze our entire industry. No M&A. And she was going to magically, through being able to predict the future, like a precog in Minority Report, predict future competition. I invest for a living. The probably 10 companies I've invested in when they were under $10 million that became unicorns, I would never have been able to predict. I knew they were great founders, but you can't really predict these things. And I've done 500 investments. So the fact that she could do this was crazy. Since she's been removed and the wrath of Khan has ended, we've seen a flurry of M&A. We've seen a bunch of IPOs. The stock market has ripped. And you've seen regulation around, and there's many reasons for it, so we'll get into that. But you've seen regulation from my friend David Sachs, who actually joined the administration, as you know, which didn't see that coming. I knew.
I saw that coming. I don't know. Maybe I saw it coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been.
I'm just happy he doesn't have the Ukraine portfolio, but okay, let's continue.
Yeah, you and I actually. It's so great. I troll him on that one all the time, as you see publicly. But we'll get into that in a moment. So I think that's been fantastic because entrepreneurs create jobs in this country. Innovation has got us where we are, and you need to have a very fluid M&A market. You need to have fluid capital markets, and the last administration had contempt for innovators, for entrepreneurs, and for business in general. And they threw up tons of roadblocks and they wouldn't meet with us. So something like crypto is the perfect example. There's very simple rules of the road you could create for crypto. And instead, what they did, Gensler in the last administration, they said, oh, come meet with us. Tell us what you're doing. And then you'd meet with them and then they would file an action against you. So, those two things alone, from a business perspective, now we have some rules of the road for crypto. And you have things like, if you know what stable coins are, I won't explain them here. This is going to be fantastic for America. And then just having a framework for crypto means the amount of people who are going to lose their money in crypto because they're going to be doing stuff offshore and there's no repercussions to that. There's no legal system. There's no way for you to try to get your money back. Onshoring that now is going to be net a huge benefit. In those cases, I think those are all solid wins. When I look at foreign policy,
let's just stick around economic for a second, then we'll go
sure,
let's just really quick, and we'll table crypto. Yeah. So you look at the solid part on economic policy. You're saying, all right, it's the changes of the regulatory. Lena Khan, people don't pay attention to that much. Was really, kind of dialed in on this antitrust issue, preventing big mergers, going after big tech on antitrust issues, and frankly, just. My cards on the table. I'm probably more sympathetic to you than Lena on that issue in particular. Yeah. The idea that, for example, it's kind of funny, right? Like Google is, let's just use an example. Google's company that people are going at is like a big antitrust massive case now. Seemed like a monopoly at the time. Makes a lot of sense. It's that, I understand why it seems that way. Yep. Like AI, just ChatGPT comes out of nowhere and just like totally disrupts it. All of a sudden, Google, it's kind of like silly to think that Google's a monopoly.
Every single time. Right. By the time a regulator can regulate what is thought to be a monopoly, and in Google's case, they do have a such monopoly, something in the free market's going to make it happen. In almost every case, these M&A transactions result in lower prices, more choice for customers, because big companies tend to not be great at innovating. Some are good, most are not. They're slower. So she wanted to block things like Roombas and, being bought by Amazon, just ticky-tacky tiny things. When she did actually do a good job, I'll give her credit, is she went after things like dark patterns, which is when you try to unsubscribe, they don't let you, or bundling of software, which Microsoft has a really great ability to do. They can just add something to the Microsoft Office bundle and kill. Yeah. And that's would be under the category of price dumping, which is illegal. So she wanted to change the law to be, we want to prevent future competition, as opposed to just, here's a rule set for this game of basketball. And, here's how it's played. And we're just going to evenly, administer those rules. And so that's been a huge win. And I think you're going to see that pay off, over the next couple of years. Yeah.
So we'll just say that. That's a Lena Khan agreement. I should have Lena on, by the way. Actually, Katie, remind me, we should invite Lena to come on.
I would love to talk to her. Yeah,
we should give her the other perspective on that if she wants to chat it out. So I understand if you're a single issue Lena Khan voter, if you're an antitrust voter, maybe you see some good things happening, some better in this administration. Like I said, we're table crypto at the end. I thought we were aligned on crypto, so we'll have to fight about that on the end. The rest of it, though, the thing that is really confusing to me, and that I asked Cuban about this when I had him on a couple of months ago, the business environment was booming under Biden. Yeah. The market was flying.
Unemployment at a 50-year low.
The big tech guys, like all these big names we're talking about, people that ended up getting red pills or whatever, started pivoting more towards the MAGA side. Yeah. Elon, Andreessen, all these guys were Tim Cook making billions. Making more money than anybody has had in the history, like unimaginable Gilded Age type levels of money was happening. These companies were succeeding. S&P, the biggest companies are succeeding. It's like the idea that people looked at that and thought, oh man, the environment was so hostile before. I just don't see it. Again, on the specific, if like I had an M&A I was trying to do that got blocked by Lena Khan. Okay. But just broader in the economy, things were going very well. And then you look at Trump and which we'll get into, and there you have all these risks with tariffs, with instability. Explain that to me.
Sure.
It doesn't feel like things are better.
The contempt issue is partially the outward contempt and what they would say and their actions. So we talked on the last episode when you and I talked on October 15th about not inviting Elon to the EV summit.
I know. People's feelings get hurt.
It's super disrespectful, and it matters, I think, to the business community, because we take them at their word. When they say we should ban billionaires or we should look into that guy, which was Biden's big thing, we actually, and when you see the Delaware courts.
I mean, Trump was just shitting on the Intel CEO yesterday, calling him like a Chinese Chinese asset. Or like, if we're talking about people being a little mean to business guys, it's not like Trump doesn't do that. But
the perception is, if you wanted to talk to them, they weren't available to talk to you. And no amount of donations, lobbying, or even just, hey, I want to have a goodwill discussion were allowed. And that socialist, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, now Mondami, that whole group, I think, is how the business community, finance community, tech community started to look at the Democratic Party. This was their biggest mistake, because Clinton didn't feel this way. Obama didn't feel this way. This was like a kind of a new thing. And all the people I mentioned earlier, they all supported Obama. They all supported Clinton. So we were essentially, as a business community, told, need not apply, need not to be involved. And we're just going to make things difficult for you. And there's no conversation. And so, yes, we will get into Trump's mercurial, shaking of the snow globe of business, is the way I look at it, and the impact that has. But net, any business person you talk to, any CEO behind closed doors will say this is a much better situation for business. They
right now, you think August 12th, 2025 is better for business than August 12th, 2024?
100%.
No way.
100%.
No, come on. With the uncertainty because of the tariffs.
Absolutely. And the way you can know that, Tim, is the stock market is the backstop.
Even.
What's that?
The stock market's basically even since he's been. It went up and then down. Yeah, it's up a little bit. It's
bouncing along the ceiling. And here's the good news. Trump wants to be loved. I've been studying Trump now. I met him for the first time 2 weeks ago. And I've been studying my friends and my associates who cozied up to him or have gotten close to him. And, I think he has a unique way of doing negotiations. But at the end of the day, he wants to be loved. I think he wants to be respected. I think we all know this, right? And
I've always said the thing that's going to save us from Trump killing the whole democracy is the fact that his dad didn't hug him enough, Fred Trump. Like he does,
whatever the trauma is,
he's got like a hole inside of his heart somewhere, and that I do think that's fingers crossed on that one.
I think actually, we're kind of goofing here, but
no, I'm not.
His biggest peak was being a reality star. You only become a reality star. Or a podcaster, no offense to the two of us, if you want to be heard, right?
Yeah, no, I see it. I'm just saying, he's got it at the megalomaniacal level, we've got it at the podcaster level.
Exactly. We want to have good conversations. He truly wants to be loved, and he truly wants to be respected. And the stock market is his scorecard. And so when he did his, I call it shock and bore. I don't like the taco thing. I think that's like trying to provoke him. And it's stupid to do that because then maybe he won't back down. I think he does shock and bore. I'm going to say something crazy, outrageous. I fill the void. I flood the zone, whatever term you want to use. It shakes everything up. And then Howard Lutnick comes in and does a reciprocal tariff. Hey, you're charging us 15%. We'll charge you 15%. And they try to negotiate something in between. And I think it's a way for them to consolidate power. It's a way for them to get themselves involved in everything. So they get to be involved in everything with this tariff tool. And they brought in $125 billion in the last 3 months. It is completely possible, and this is their plan, that they could bring in an incremental $500 billion a year. So, we could all say it's crazy and it's going to cause massive inflation. If they do the tariffs at about 15%, that's the just noticeable difference in psychology and perception. And it also applies to pricing. And so if you were to buy $1 million worth of sneakers and the person selling it to you has a 20% margin and you have a 20% margin, if you find 15% in there to split, it doesn't get passed on to consumers, which is what's happened to date. If it's around 50%, then obviously the tariff is greater than the profit margin. It's busto, right? And you can't solve that. So that's where they'll wind up. They will have hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're on track to do that. And their belief is growth, plus this tariff revenue, plus less regulations, which drives growth, plus M&A, will at the end of the day balance the budget / not add to the deficit.
Well, that's
I don't buy
crazy.
it. It's not exactly my best strategy, but that's what they believe.
I mean, that's insane, Jacob. We can just say it. That's insane. They're not going to balance the budget. I mean, they passed a
not add to the
they passed a bill. It's going to add. They're going to add to the deficit. I mean, the tax bill, you guys talked about this. You guys were very good on this on your podcast. Like, look, but the extension of the trunks tax cuts, whatever you think about them as a policy, the tax on tips, and just the numbers are the numbers. Like, there's no way that he's going to tariff our way to a balanced budget when they're adding trillions.
However, if it went from $2 trillion a year, which is what it's averaged over the last 8 years across both, if you just look at 16 to 34, 35, 36, 37, which is kind of where we've been bouncing around. I do think they could get it down to $1 trillion added to the deficit each year, and they can cut it in half. That would be on the road to success. I have been pushing friends who might want to create third parties or other things that
Party, maybe.
I call it the responsible party. I got the domain name. I like to buy domain names. I think there needs to be a responsible party, but even more importantly, a pledge. So like the Grover Norquist, I'm not going to add to taxes pledge and how effective that's been.
Sure.
I think there should be a pledge that we lobby candidates through donations to agree to not add to the deficit and to, unless it's a war and Congress approves it. So I think that there's a possibility that individuals who care and have their primary concern being the deficit, which is actually my number one concern, because I think the whole experiment stops if we do $2 trillion a year for somewhere between 2 and 6 more years. It'll be busto. Like we'll flip the country will be broke. That's the best attack vector here to get people back to the middle.
Okay, well, let me just give a different breakdown of how I see it, because we're looking at the same. I mean, this is not on the top of my concern list. I have some other concerns that are higher than this, but it's a legit concern about just the substance of the policies he's put forth. You put together huge cuts in investment coming from government into key industries, into green industries, into batteries, into industries like Elon. So was one of the things he was concerned about the one big beautiful bill. So you have huge cuts in that, cuts in just public sector generally, that is not creating jobs, that's contributing to the economy, and we're just adding all these things together. So you've got that is, putting limits on the growth of the economy, both of those things. On top of that, you got tariffs, which is also stifling the economy. On top of that, we're going to have negative, I think, population growth.
The tariff thing you're saying is not true yet. So you might wind up being
we're
true.
seeing it a little bit. It's just a little. We're seeing it a little bit. They're slowing. I mean, the GDP. The last report that came out. I mean, the only areas that are growing jobs are like AI, data centers, and healthcare.
Yeah, but GDP was on a tear in the second quarter. If you average it out with the first.
Okay, we'll see.
Kind of average,
I think most
TBD
economists, TBD. I think most economists say that'll slow the economy. Migration, we're going to have net negative migration this year. We're going to talk about that in a second. So if you put all of that together, how are you growing in such a way to attack the deficit problem when simultaneously you're extending the tax cuts?
$2 trillion added to the deficit minus, this is in their mind, $500 billion in tariff income, puts you at $1.5 trillion. They think the economy will grow. There'll be more efficiency in the economy through unleashing AI and unleashing more M&A, and that will make us create more Apples, more Ubers, more Airbnbs, more Coinbases, et cetera, and that will ultimately create more jobs. And that tends to be true. So the good news, Tim, is that we can sit here and debate the finer points of it, but they have to live with their track record, and their track record is going to land at the midterms. We're going to know in 6 months what reality is. Right now, we have 3 months of tariff data to look at. We'll have 9 months soon, and we will also have the inflation numbers, unemployment numbers.
Totally fair.
And they're going to have to sleep in that bed. And if you want Trump out of office, or if you want MAGA out of office, and they get this wrong, and they know that if they get this wrong, it's going to be cataclysmic for that party. So I think they're
Let's
acutely
fair.
attuned into it.
We'll see how that conversation turns out. I'm not optimistic, but fair enough. What about just the management style stuff though? Like, this is not really a apples to apples analogy, but like you look at what we saw with the job situation last month. BLS comes out, they fire the guy, they're bringing in some hack now. I mean, I think it was a woman actually. Your investors, or they fired the woman, they're bringing in the hack guy. Yes, thank you. That was my internal misogyny show. I got corrected by Jason Calacanis. Happy to take it. They fire the woman who is Commissioner of Labor Statistics, replace him with this guy who, by all accounts, is not exactly the most accomplished in the field. You look at these companies. If you look at the companies with a founder, and this founder is so erratic that like numbers come out at the quarter and it shows that things aren't looking that good for the P&L. And then they say, well, I'm just going to fire the CFO and we're going to bring in somebody that's going to put out better numbers next month. You'd be like, this is insane. This is insane. And then they're tweeting all caps tweets at night about how the person is crazy. You'd be like, this is not.
So stylistically and the timing is obviously ridiculous, but the intent, there's been a long dialogue about how terrible the government is at forecasting stuff and how we need to sort of innovate there. They should have just done this at the top of the administration and just said, hey, we need to get new people in there, new technology in there. The fact that they can't get these numbers correct and that they're lollygagging around getting them, they need to have a better system. So two things can be true at the same time. I don't like the way he did it either. I don't think any reasonable person thinks it's the right way to do it. I would say the majority of the people who support Trump don't like his style, but they do like the action, right? And you've said this before on the pod. I listen to you once in a while. It comes up in my YouTube
erratic,
feed,
though.
Just like tariff.
I keep thinking like, look, my daughter's going back to school today, first day of school. It's like I went in and I met the teacher, and then it's like I started looking at their Twitter feed, and they go home at the end of the day and they start tweeting all caps about how stupid one of the students is. I'd be like, okay, anyway, it's a judgment thing. One other thing stylistically though, the Tim Cook stuff that you mentioned, the kind of the suck up stuff we're going in there. This is also the thing that it's hard for me to wrap my head around, which is like, we're mad at Biden that he doesn't invite Elon to the party. It's like, okay, all right, I get it. But like on the other side of the coin, the Democrats are not making CEOs come in and bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh in order to get stuff.
I would say,
can you imagine if Tim Cook had come in, and also the identity politics stuff? You guys all like all of the MAGA stuff, and I don't know your show, but also MAGA was to get mad at identity politics stuff. Tim Cook comes in and just does MAGA identity politics. He's just like, "Sir, we have this Marine who made this for you," and I was like, if Tim Cook had gone into the Biden-Harris White House and said, Kamala, I had this indigenous woman of color make you a 24 karat gold plaque, and in exchange, I hope that you'll give me a break on the taxes. You guys would have lost your minds about that. Right?
Tim Cook's playing the game on the field. So,
but isn't it crazy that he has to? Isn't it crazy that he has to do that? That's insane. That's not a free capitalist country.
I think they call it narco-capitalism. Narco-capitalism. Yeah. So I think we're between a socialist kleptocracy and a narco-capitalism.
Okay, that's bad.
Both of those are bad things. You don't want Mondami and you don't want a narco-capitalism. We need to find, somewhere in between this too hot, too cold temperature switch. I 100% concur.
Okay. So you didn't.
We're in agreement.
It made you uncomfortable, the Tim Cook thing.
I mean, I was fine with him going there, and I don't mind the president.
It's a little weird that he has to.
I think
it feels un-American, I guess. It feels a little bit more like it should be happening in some banana republic. Getting
invited to the White House as a business leader, fantastic. The president encouraging you to invest in America, fantastic. Bringing a gold bar, super weird. If they did, in fact, if Qatar actually gave him that plane, no bueno, right? So I think we have the emoluments clause. I think what we'll probably see with this warfare stuff is if the Dems win again, if any of this stuff is not tight, it's all going to be another wave of lawfare, just like we're seeing the wave of lawfare now from Trump to the Biden administration. And you're going to see a whole bunch of global pardons like Biden did for Fauci and his son. And then you're going to see Trump do that on his side. And so, neither of these two trends are good. And we have to really rethink when we have new leadership in the pardon power, because it does seem like we're now using that as a way to get out of jail before anybody has a chance to even look at what you're
I agree
doing.
with that. I was against Hunter Biden pardon and went after it. But again, I just on the business side of this, because I'm sorry, this is why I'm just obsessed with this, right? Because it's like, if the complaint was that Biden was being too hostile to them, like Trump is bullying them. He's bullying them into doing stuff in exchange for better treatment from the government. Like, that is not a free market system. And not everybody can bullying.
You're using the term bullying, I think.
What else would it be?
I think people would say negotiating and horse trading. That's how people look at it. And so for somebody like Tim Cook, you want $100 billion in investment over the next 10 years? Sure, we'll do it. You want us to make something here? Fine, we'll make some chips here.
Precedent? Like, can't we see this starting to go wrong? I mean, it's like, I'm going to attack Intel because they won't genuflect, and Tim Cook brings me the gold bar, and then some other competitor can't doesn't have the resources to pay out the payoff to Trump, right? Like, I guess my point is, it's not capital. It's not the free market. It's
narco-capitalism. It's an anarchist version of capitalism, certainly.
Right. Well, I don't like that. All right, one more. This will pivot us into the foreign policy.
I would dial it back 20%. I like the idea of inviting Tim Cook. I don't like the idea of the gold bar.
20%? Yeah, I'd dial back 80%. I think Tim Cook got invited to the Biden White House, didn't he? I'm pretty sure Tim Cook was there.
I mean,
Tim Cook was around.
Maybe for some DEI celebration. It certainly wasn't to increase investment in America.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Well, I mean, Tim Cook, Apple did quite well during the Obama and Biden years, I think.
Buying back $700 billion in stock.
The
end of it. Certainly not.
Again, it wasn't perfect, but like they did fine. Anyway, okay. The risk is he never had to bend the knee. The Doge stuff. I want to do a little quick Doge reflection.
Oh, yeah.
So we've talked about the spending side. You can talk about it more if you want. The foreign stuff, the foreign aid side, is really bad. It just is. Like, the USAID stuff is really bad, right? Like, it's just
the corruption part of it, or
it's just not
the sending food to people who are starving.
Not sending the food to the people who are starving part of it. It's like, this is such a tiny budget item. Sure, we could. I'm for reforms, just going in there and just cutting it. I mean, you've seen the stories. You're a well-read person. You've seen what's happening in some of these countries. Like, the most vulnerable people in the world, we can't feed them.
Yeah,
that is not Clinton Democrat policy. Like, this is like very harsh policies, and that is causing real damage.
A bit of a sadistic red meat trait of this administration, which is their Achilles heel. And we saw it blow back on them when they started doing these raids at Home Depots, et cetera. And even, the Joe Rogans of the world were like, didn't vote for that. Shut the border. Yes. Drag somebody out of the country with no due process, who's been here for 20 years, and send them to a sadistic prison that Amnesty International can list 17 different torture violations there. I think that's their absolute Achilles heel, and it's blowing back against them. And that's why you see Trump, I think, dialing that back. And he even went to the point of saying, maybe we should do something for these farmers here and give them a work visa, which is like, that's something we had 20 or 30 years ago. Why do we have to go send a bunch of masked men? I mean, how could they possibly be allowed to wear masks into Los Angeles to take people who've been here 20 years, putting people's ADUs in, or cleaning their gardens, or, cooking and whatever, taking care of people's kids. It's abhorrent. They know it's abhorrent. And I think that Stephen Miller sort of part of the camp and the Bannon part of the camp, I think they're being contained, because I think
this is what we'll go to next. So let's actually do it right now, but really quick. Sure. But the USAID cuts, because we're just creating a little mental ledger here about everything, because you were saying pretty good, and I'm like, that's a pretty big one on my bad list.
Overall, I think Doge was necessary. I think probably Elon stayed a month or two too long there. He should have been back at his companies. But I don't think I think what we learned from that is the system. There's so many people in on the take from both parties, that the idea of cutting significantly is really hard. It's really hard. And to do it in a shock and awe kind of way, which is what we do in the capitalistic world, is going to face massive antibodies in politics and in that sector. Private sector, you can come into Twitter and be like, nobody's showing up for work. Great. If you don't show up for work, you don't get paid. And then at Doge, I think they were like, can you come to the office at least? And people were like, no, I'm not coming to the office.
I was for the coming to the office. I'm talking about the
Sure.
plumpy nut for the poorest people in the world, the children. Like that feels like a bad mistake.
What I'll say is, I think how you treat the weakest people speaks volumes, I think, to character. And so I think, while there was a lot of abuse in that system, I would have liked to see it be more thoughtful. My view of Doge was cut 10% a year for 4 years, and we're going to be at 50% or, whatever it is. And that would be success. I think they went in and tried to do the shock and awe campaign. And I think they probably learned some good lessons, but we shouldn't throw out the concept of Doge. The things the government's responsible for, where they overregulate, tend to be the least efficient in our society and cause the most problems. If you look at housing, education, and healthcare, those three things need to be, the less the government could be involved in those three things, the better off everybody in America would be, because you would actually have competition to lower the prices of college, to lower the price of housing, and to make healthcare more efficient. And you're seeing it. Entrepreneurs are doing it anyway. Yeah. Amazon doing telemedicine, Hims, selling people whatever directly. All of that is
what Cubans doing with the prescription drugs.
All of that's a reaction to trying to get around the regulation. The regulators and the government fight that, just like they fight ADUs. We've had, California fighting what they call in-law units, but accessory dwelling units like crazy. Just building here in Austin, like putting in a 4-unit townhome, they fight that.
It tickles my pickle. You know how to pivot a convo into a topic that I'm going to agree with you on. All right, we can just do red tape cutting all day long. We could do 1 hour of agreeing on red tape. That afternoon coffee, that evening coffee, when I got to go on TV, when I got to be on MSNBC and flap my jaw at 8:40 p.m. like I did last night, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do a cold brew before that. If you want to get to bed anytime soon in your 40s. And so I've been excited to try this product that's a sponsor of this very podcast. It's Mud Water. Their OG blend is a mix of cacao, chai, turmeric, and adaptogen mushrooms to help you feel focused without the crash. And the best part, it's amazing over ice. Seriously, you just mix it with cold water or milk. I like the milk. Shake it up, pour it over ice, and boom, you got yourself a refreshing, feel-good boost that actually helps you stay balanced. The best part about Mud Water is it provides sustained energy without the spikes and crash of traditional coffee. There's also caffeine-free blends available. Each ingredient in Mud Water serves a purpose. Their OG blend contains cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavor, lion's mane for focus, cordyceps to promote natural energy, and both chaga and reishi to support a healthy immune system. I've gone full lib when I'm talking about a product that has chaga in it. Ready to make the switch to cleaner energy? Head to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit today. Right now, our listeners get an exclusive deal. Up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping, and a free rechargeable frother when you use code THEBulwark. That's right, up to 43% off with code THEBulwark at mudwtr.com. After your purchase, they'll ask how you found them. Please show your support and let them know we sent you. Keep your energy natural and refreshing all year long with Mud Water, because life's too short for anything less than clean, delicious energy. The immigration thing, which you mentioned. You sort of said something interesting. We think maybe the Stephen Miller wing is losing a little power. You did a very interesting interview with the vice president. I encourage people to listen to that. I just want to play one clip from it.
Sure.
It really jumped out to me.
Is this when he calls me an asshole?
It's not when he called you an asshole. Actually, it's just, I thought it was very revealing about how he sees himself. Anyway, let's go.
Where the Trump administration, where we've been most wildly successful, is that we have, I think in 2025, we will have the first net negative immigration number in about 50 or 60 years in the United States. And so there has been a major shift in immigration policy. Now, again, I'm like, me and Stephen Miller are probably the two most hardline people in the entire administration when it comes to immigration. So there's always more that we can do. And like I said, I think that there is more that we can do.
It's a strange brag for me on both fronts. I don't think you want to be a country that has negative net migration. If you look at the list of those countries in the world, they're like the worst places in the world because nobody wants to go there and people want to leave. And so I don't understand why that's an applause line. And I don't understand why you'd want to call yourself the Stephen Miller of the administration. But what did you make of the immigration stuff?
So, what I've learned watching this administration, the last one, and being up close and personal to friends joining it, is they really get you to speak with one voice, and dissent is not encouraged. They might say it is, but we saw that with the cover up of Biden's health, and we see it now with I don't believe JD or anybody in that administration, with the exception of maybe Stephen Miller, actually wants to deport 20 or 30 million people. What everybody agrees on is nobody wants an open border. Nobody wants the suffering happening on the southern border. So I always try to break immigration into like those three pieces: close the border, path to citizenship for people who are here illegally, they pay a fine, whatever. But
well, they don't want that though. They don't.
Trump
want that.
actually said he thinks there should be a. Well, no. Actually, I think.
I mean, we got to look at their
Trump's
actions. Not what Trump says everything. Trump blah blah blahs all the
Trump
time. Like, look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing.
When you see Trump come out and say, "Hey, we're going to look at farm workers and restaurant workers," I think that's actually his true position. And I think the MAGA position of deport 20 million people is to win the primary and get elected. And to get
he's already elected. He's not running again, right? He's not running again, right?
No, and I think that's why he's willing to say that. I don't think he would have said that.
So why don't they just do it then? And they're just adding 10,000 more ICE members, and all their plans are to harass more people. They're turning it up. I guess I just don't disagree your assessment that you think that they're backing up. I think they're turning it up.
I think they're playing both sides, and that's why it is unclear and there's ambiguity. Right now, they're on a pace to deport less people than the last couple of administrations. So.
Well, but the total net, because JD corrected you not corrected you, but corrected the record on this point, excuse me, on that same interview, where he's explaining why that was, and like the boomerang stuff, right. So that's why I played that clip in specific. Like, the stated goal of the administration is to have net negative migration in the country. That's insane. Like, as you said, the three very successful people on your podcast. You guys should be the most pro-immigration.
We are. And you remember when I interviewed Trump, I got him to do that whole thing about stapling the green card.
I do remember.
And I followed up that a couple times. That's actually how they all believe. They're scared to death of the MAGA base. And they just have to, they basically unleash that MAGA base. They let that genie out of the bottle, and it helped them get elected. But I do think they have a hard time containing it. So I think they throw them red meat. They do this ICE actions. It's performative. But at the end of the day, I doubt they're going to actually deport that many people because it's too expensive and we need those people here and we need the economy to grow, per our last discussion. So they know the reality in the game on the field is they need more people working. And they need more productivity because they need more GDP. And if they want to, build more fabs here and factories, and they're not completely automated, which, they can't be all automated. We actually need to have more people. When I run for president, my position is going to be, our stated goal should be to build 5 new high functioning tech cities in the United States and become the most populous country in the world. We should try to become as big.
1 billion Americans, great.
1 billion Americans was my idea, yeah. And we should try to, make recruiting our number one pursuit. And we should never let people call it immigration when we choose to recruit somebody to our team. Just like if you want to recruit Dirk Nowitzki or Yao Ming, that's for the benefit of the league. We should be recruiting more Elon Musks, more David Saxes, more Dave Friedbergs, more Chamath Palihapitias, and straight on down the line, because they create lots of jobs. And so,
here's my question for you. So, and then I want to get to tech stuff after this, but this is like my main disagreement. So I just want to
between you and I.
Between you and I, we agree on the policy. I guess my main disagreement is about how you could assess the first 6 months as solid, because for me, it's and I guess I get a little bit confused about why, and I promise you I wouldn't make you speak for your colleagues, so I'm not going to, but why people that are actually immigrants are less upset about this than me, and people that are, I guess, pretending that they have a different position on this to appease the MAGA base, but because everything else being equal, if Trump gave me exactly the tax policy I wanted, exactly the regulation policy I wanted, everything about Ukraine that I wanted, which he hasn't, whatever, everything on social issues that I wanted, and he put in place the immigration policy they've put in place for the first 9 months, where they disappeared people to a foreign gulag, where they're
abhorrent,
where they're harassing people outside Home Depot. But I guess my point is that like that is a red line. Like to me, it is so un-American and it is so wrong and unacceptable that there's no other policy that really could rationalize it. And I guess I'm just confused by like why, and you have JD Vance coming on to y'all's podcast being like, I want negative net migration. And then for them to be like, well, you know, that's not really the policy. I don't understand why, explain to me why Silicon Valley of all places isn't more up in arms about it.
They don't agree.
Well, but last time there were protests at Google and the offices. There were protests in San Francisco.
If you're asking why business people are not going to touch that issue, is they're probably just going to quietly say, hey, we need more of this immigration, and they'll get it. And they're not going to touch it.
What evidence is there that they're going to get it? It's the top priority of the most powerful two people in the White House, JD Vance and Stephen Miller.
Well, you're looking at what they're saying, not at what they're doing.
I am looking at what they're doing. They're harassing people outside Home Depots. They harassed an old Iranian lady in New Orleans.
I think it's as abhorrent as you and I agree it is. I think it's performative. I think we're going to be sitting here in 3-4 years.
They just added a budget to make ICE the biggest funded. ICE is going to have a bigger budget than the Israeli military this year.
They know that if they...
What are they going to do? Nothing? Just sit around? Watch old Superman episodes?
I think they're going to just try to find as many criminals as they can that they don't have anybody complaining about a violent criminal being deported, gang member. And I think I really do think it's performative.
Right.
That's my belief.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I wonder if the next administration deported, I don't know, let's say, like a prominent supporter of Donald Trump decided to take away their green cards, decided that they wrote some op-eds or said some podcasts that were wrong and then deported them. I don't know. I think a Democrat administration did that. I think that a lot of folks would be pretty up in arms. But that's what's happening in this administration.
Your expectation is business people are going to put their personal beliefs and morality above their balance sheets. I think you haven't been paying attention.
Well, sure. Fair enough. I guess I would just expect immigrant business people to want to make sure that they're safe. Their families are safe. I don't know. I got to tell you, it's a pretty interesting prospect. The idea that writing a bad op-ed could get you deported. Hey, y'all, I was having dinner with a friend last night who, like many people, is having some questions about his America status, is looking around, is thinking, maybe I should spend a year or two someplace else, see if that takes. And he did have a problem, though. He said he was trying it out in France last month. And, the French weren't exactly thrilled with his language skills. Made it a little hard to connect, made it hard to bridge the divide. Well, our advertiser today is trying to help with that. You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babel's conversation-based technique. It quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace, so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I've been testing it out with my daughter a little bit, playing a game here and there. Babel makes it nice and easy. It's fun to learn. You can learn the easy words first. I'm not trying to move to France, so I'm not going for proficiency. But, being able to say some fun phrases is fun. Order at a restaurant. No matter which level you're going for, Babel can help you out. Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other leading universities continue to prove Babel works. One study found that using Babel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Take it from me. This is a product you should use. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to give you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bulwark. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bulwark, spelled BABBEL.com/bulwark, babbel.com/bulwark. Rules and restrictions may apply. I want to pick your brain on stuff you're smart about that I'm not really quick before we leave. I'm pretty worried about the AI stuff. I want to be an optimist. I know that listeners of the show find that hard to believe because I have a lot of things I'm negative about these days. But I was kind of a tech dorky optimist for a while, not at like your level, but I was into all of that. And I'm not a Luddite. I'm always trying the new stuff that's coming out. The LLMs have me freaked. And I guess that this does kind of relate to policy, because a big Trump policy that you're touting and others are touting is that like they're not getting the government really too involved in regulation of this stuff. But man, you see this story just out this week, the one example of the ChatGPT going from 4 to 5 and people like thinking they lost their lover, or they lost their
AI
best
psychosis,
friend.
yeah.
AI psychosis. That's
really
people not
interesting
being able to understand what's real and fake is concerning to me. I understand there's going to be a lot of cool AI advancements in some other areas that maybe are in some of the portfolio companies of yours, but like in the public discourse stuff, I'm pretty worried about AI making things worse, not better. What do you think?
Yeah, you're not wrong to have concerns. And there will be massive job displacement. For the audience who's not like super tuned into this, there's a really easy framing with two terms that people use interoperably, but are in fact very different: AGI and superintelligence. AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. That means the ability to write the docket, or summarize a news story, or do some basic legal work, or make an image. Jobs that humans do.
Sure.
Drive a car, work in a factory and sort boxes at Amazon factories, or deliver those to you. That we're in the middle of, and that is absolutely in the end game. All of those jobs will be replaced with technology. Question is when and how quickly. And then how quickly do people ride in the streets, whether it's in Wuhan, where people are literally, starting to protest over self-driving cars, and that's sort of their capital of it, paradoxically, of all cities to do it in. Maybe they're trying to recover the brand name of Wuhan. I just thought of that. So you have to ask yourself about that job displacement. Now we go to super intelligence. The bets that are being made now are not on AGI. That's kind of the table stakes. That's how
AGI, for people who don't listen, is
artificial general intelligence. It just means your ability to play chess, be a lawyer, an accountant.
It's basically the Turing test, kind of like an updated version of that.
It's not even being able to trick somebody or human. It's being able to do the human chores is how I look at it.
Got it.
Do things that are chores. Do things that are not uniquely human, like have a conversation or make jokes or do art. So that's going to happen. And what that means is the number of jobs needed to accomplish a task is going to go down. One person as an attorney using this, or a developer using these technologies in what's called a co-pilot to kind of assist them, they're going to be 10% better probably every 2 or 3 months, which if you compound that, it means basically every 2 years, people will be twice as good as their jobs. That means you just need less lawyers at your company. You need less accountants. You need et cetera. Or you find more projects to do and more problems to solve. And that's the tension everybody's trying to figure out. How quickly do those jobs get displaced? How more ambitious do founders and entrepreneurs, which is 0.1% of the country, the people who actually do these things, certainly less than 1%, how motivated will they be to create more and more businesses and products and services? And that's what we've seen. We've seen an explosion of startups that are trying to address every possible problem. Now, when you go to super intelligence, which is like, that's the grand prize, right? That's the mega prize. That is an existential prize, because super intelligence, the idea is it will be able to answer questions we couldn't even think of answering. They could figure out the secrets of the universe, figure out things in our chemistry or biology to solve.
I was listening to the All In a couple months ago, and David Sachs said that super intelligence was going to solve climate change, so we don't have to worry about it.
I mean, solar's going to, despite this administration with their clean coal, and you may have seen me get into a little bit with the energy secretary about solar. Solar's by far and away the best solution, along with nuclear. Nuclear gives you great base load, solar and batteries.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I made a gag and got you distracted. But anyway, the superintelligence will take us.
So the superintelligence is where things could get really nutty. And we're already starting, and that's where like the Doomsday Scenarios, Terminator ones kind of come out of that group. So what happens if, all drivers go away? Well, every self-driving car is 4 full-time jobs, and every humanoid robot in a factory is 5 jobs, maybe 6, because those jobs you can work for maybe 7 hours as a just physical limitation. As humans who are driving, you can work a 12-hour shift. And those are going to be here, folks. And before 2030, you're going to see Amazon which has massively invested in this, replace all factory workers and all drivers. The idea that when you order something from Amazon, a human would touch it at any point in that supply chain is insane. It will be 100%, robotic, which means all of those workers are going away. Every Amazon worker, all those jobs, UPS gone, FedEx gone. All of those are going to be gone, and those companies will be more profitable. And when you order something, it's going to come faster and cheaper and better. And your Uber will be half as much, but somebody needs to retrain these people. And that's actually a very valid fear that technologists will tell somebody like you, don't worry about it. There'll just be more jobs created. Yeah. The question is, what happens to those people who get caught in the gap, right? And when we had this happen in the Industrial Revolution, that happened over 40 years, 50 years. The agricultural revolution, again, that was multi-decades. This one will happen in a decade. And so it'll be very different. And yeah, you should be concerned. I wouldn't worry about the psychosis stuff. People always take new technologies too far.
What about people not knowing what is true and what is fake? I'm pretty worried about that. That's already kind of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the media, that was a problem with social media, and AI is not going to solve that problem. And there'll be bias in all of these systems. And in fact, you're going to be able to pick or program in the bias. So you and I could say, hey, we're fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Give me my answers based on this. And these things are such sycophants that they will know what your preference is.
What you want to hear.
And they're going to literally target to you because I don't know if you've rewatched the movie Her, but I'm watching some clips from it. Like, they want to appease you. And I think actually Sam Altman is making this technology to be addictive and to be sycophantic so that he wins the race. And so you have
and he's a pleaser. So it kind of matches him in a weird, creepy way.
I think that's like a profound insight. I was at a dinner the other day and somebody was saying this exact same thing, which was, you always kind of put your stamp on it whenever you see a great movie. It's got some of Scorsese's childhood in it or Kurosawa's childhood in it, whatever it is. They bring, to their songs what they lived or whatever. And he's a negotiator and a pleaser. That would be, that would be
that's alarming. Do you have anything? Can we have a positive? You are more of an optimistic person than me on this stuff generally. Is there anything cool out there in AI world you saw? Like some neat technology I might not know of because I'm not.
Here's the thing that's going to be amazing, and you and I are dads. Our kids are going to be able to learn things with adaptive tutors that will be absolutely mind-blowing. So I was in the car and I did a thing with my 9-year-old twins and a 15-year-old where I said, give us a slang, keep it PG, of like Gen X slang, Gen Alpha slang, Millennial slang, and quiz us. And then here are the 4 people in the car, and then go around in a circle and give questions to people. And then we'll answer them and keep score. And it did it perfectly. And then I was like, wow, I want to benchmark my vocabulary. And so I started doing a vocabulary quiz when I was, driving here in the hill country. Yeah. And my vocabulary is going up because it knows where I'm at. It gives me new words. It knows the words I got wrong.
Which one are you using?
I was using Grok is now in the dashboard of every Tesla. So you just press a button, it's in there. Or you can use ChatGPT for it. Claude is also exceptional at this. If you haven't used Claude. But all these language models are starting to hit parity. So they're becoming like cars. You might have stylistic differences or aesthetic differences of why you want a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi or a Ford, but they're all going to take you from point A to point B. And the ability to learn anything quickly in an adaptive way is going to change education forever in a very good way if the tools are used well. And that's going to make it continuous lifelong education. And all of these pockets of education that are siloed or behind paywalls, they're all going to be free. And so you're going to be able to, as a person in India, get a PhD in physics or the law from an equivalent of Harvard or NYU or Yale and do it at your own pace and be as smart as any other person. And so I think you could see people having 2 or 3 careers in their lives. I think you'll see our health spans. You and I will be skiing at 100. If you're under...
You think I'm going to be skiing at 100?
100%. Yeah, there's no doubt. Unless something tragic happens to you, like random, you die in a plane crash, the health span will get you easily to 100 skiing because all the degenerative diseases are going to be slowed down and reversed. a lot of the issues we have is we just don't have enough humans to work on these projects.
I'm a little worried I'm on the wrong side of this age age gap.
Under
I'm
7,
gonna deteriorate
under 60,
a little too much.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. You can get the peptides now. Get the Wolverine protocol, BPC 157. You're good.
I don't know about peptides.
Don't take health advice from a.
You're gonna have to DM me offline, Jake. Okay, I'm sorry. We're out of time, but I promised you we get back to crypto and just as briefly as
Ukraine,
we could.
My two favorite.
Well, we have an agreement on Ukraine, and neither of us are really Ukrainian experts, so we'll take. I got Michael Weiss on Thursday. He can handle Ukraine.
Okay.
On crypto.
Yeah.
Just on one particular point, we also agree on the Trump coin being a total scam, and that's outrageous. Yeah. So that's just table stakes. I'm concerned about the stable coin bill. What I'm concerned about is that during this administration, crypto is going to get so entwined into the rest of the banking system that if there is ever a crypto crash, because the value of it is not as inflated, let's say, which is something I believe. At least some of them are inflated.
Bitcoin could be a bubble, sure.
Yeah. That's a worry. I think that, we created some rules around stablecoins. It didn't create a lot of rules on the other stuff. And I think that the rest of the financial system is just kind of accepting it. You've been kind of skeptical of crypto at times. So I was surprised to hear you kind of felt good about that. Or do you not share my worries about crypto getting? I
would be worried if we didn't create regulations for it and have people be responsible in American corporations with boards of directors and in proper insurance and regulation in place. So the reason an FTX can happen is because it was offshore and they weren't playing by the rules. And when you start onshoring the stuff, then the board of directors is an American board of directors, as opposed to I was pitched on doing like a Panama foundation board and nobody would know who was on the board because of safety concerns. I mean, this stuff was seriously dark money scams, and who knows whose money is in Tether, for example, an offshore stablecoin. Yeah. And that offshore stablecoin
gave a lot of money to Donald Trump, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you were trying to get onshored, you would want to clean up your act. And according to, if you look at their history of all the different actions that were taken, they've been banned in a lot of markets. There was a lot of accusations of human trafficking and know your customer KYC, knowing whose money's in there. And that organization now is going to face stiff competition from people like Circle, which I happen to know the founder of, but I'm not an investor in, because this is all onshore. And what this will do for the American dollar dominance is you're going to be able to move dollars so quickly and easily at such low cost or no cost that this idea that the BRICS, remember this whole dialogue, the BRICS are going to create an alternative currency. It'll be like the EU or whatever. And then people aren't going to use dollars anymore. They'll get off the dollar standard. The reason they're doing this is to ensure the dollar standard. And it will actually do that. So then the rest of crypto regulation is going to happen soon. When that happens, you're going to have to be either an accredited investor or take a test to be an accredited investor in order to participate in these things. And, their approach is no crying in the casino, which is like, if you choose to go into this, you're choosing to go into a casino. You're choosing to, use a sports book.
Sure.
Okay. You should know that if you're buying something that has no inherent value, then you could lose all of your money. I always tell people only invest what you can afford to lose in this sector and keep it to low single digits. And in that case, you can't really get harmed. The people who are going to get harmed are the greedy, right? This the pigs will get slaughtered kind of thing. Yeah. Applies here. So for anybody listening, it will slowly become more regulated, and there'll be a ramification for doing illegal things, which there hasn't been. A lot of people have gotten away with a lot.
I'm skeptical of what you said. I'm open to it. We'll see how the Genius Act and whether future regulation happens. I'm open to your argument on that. But objectively speaking, they've stopped enforcement. So if something bad was happening and is already endemic in one of these companies, if there's another FTX out there, and the Trump administration has dropped all DOJ is not anymore looking into Coinbase on several potential issues that were they looking to before. Maybe that's wrong. They're not looking into Tether.
Yeah,
they're not looking into Justin Sun, right? There are a number of folks that have bought into Trump's coin that are now off the hook, and that's not good. That's not.
I think what you'll see is massive investigations of this when Trump's out of office. Yeah,
the Democrats go back
I think
in.
the Democrats are like, yeah, go ahead.
Here's the problem with being the Democrats. This is why it sucks to be a Democrat right now, Jake. We can end on this. It's like they got to be the responsible ones. It's like, oh, great. We come back in. We investigate the fucking Chinese crypto scammers that are screwing people over. And what's going to happen? All in podcast guys are going to be like, look at the Democrats coming after crypto, coming after the innovators. That's what's going to happen. We all know it.
The federal government, not cracking down on stuff doesn't stop local attorney generals or any civil actions. And I think what you're seeing now is the crypto. I have an inside line to this because I invest in startup companies. They're all very conservative now in the US because they know the stakes. And if you were to, even now, if you were to promote like as a celebrity, your coin or this, that, and the other thing, you could still get people suing you on a civil basis. So, there's still ways this will be regulated, but overall, more regulation and more onshoring is better for crypto, much better for everybody. It doesn't mean I don't share the same concerns with you.
Yeah.
Don't put more than like 2% of your money in Bitcoin, even if you're like a cab driver or whatever. Like, if you're working at McDonald's and you want to put 5% of your net worth in it or 5% of your paycheck in it, I don't suppose, working an extra 5% a week is going to change your life. So you can catch up, but don't mortgage your house to buy crypto.
All right. Last question.
Yeah.
Trump came to the All In Podcast Summit.
Yeah.
We have the audio. We don't play his voice on here, though, because that triggers some of our people. So we're not going to do it.
Trigger them.
Okay, fine. We'll put it in post. I don't have it ready. We'll put it in post.
I want to also say hello and thank to Chamath and his wonderful wife, Nat. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. It was great seeing you again. Great couple. David Friedberg and even, as we know, Jason Calacanis. I say even. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Yeah, he's a good person.
As you heard, he says, J. Cal, a good person. He's needling you. He says you're a good person.
Even Jason Calacanis.
Jason Calacanis. It shows you that he knows you are the troublemaker, which we appreciate. I guess my question for you is, though, is Donald Trump a good person? Do you think the president of our country is a good person?
Wow. And I can't see into the man's heart. Yeah. I think if you looked at his behavior, you would find a lot of behaviors that would be suboptimal.
What is there something that you got the three kids we talked about? Is there something you would look at the three kids and say, I wish you could really model yourself after Donald Trump on this. I
mean, he's quite charming. I will give him that. That guy is a charmer. I mean, I have seen him take very, very strong men and just.
Oh, he's going to like this too much. All right, that's the end of the show. He's going to like that compliment too much. We're done with this. Jason Calacanis, thank you, man. I appreciate you doing this. I genuinely do. Some of your other guys.
You do a great job.
We'll, I'm welcome anytime. I don't know.
Let's just do it like a regular check-in every 6 to 9 months. And we'll see like if any of our predictions or hand wringing turns out to be true or false. It's going to be exciting.
We'll see in January. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll go skiing. Maybe we'll do it in a mountain town in person in January. We'll talk about that. We'll figure it out. All right. That's Jake Cal. Everybody else, see you back here tomorrow.